Here we go. Welcome to the Maine Zone. I am Jermaine, and thank you for tuning into my podcast. Wherever you are and however you're listening, I want to let you know I really appreciate it. Hope everybody's safe and healthy out there. Corona's still, running through the country at a rapid pace. Now, to begin, let's talk about Mr. 45. I see he finally decided to put on a mask, and even said it's actually patriotic to wear one, which is a real big difference from the beginning of this whole pandemic when everything shut down. Hopefully, he's getting some good advice from scientists that are letting him know that he is, there's a way of leading by example, which then in turn has more and more people putting on a mask that otherwise would not. But today, this podcast, we're going to cover some sports, a little bit of news, but the main focus will be on the top 10 duos that are in the NBA bubble. But before I get into that, let's just dive into some news of the week. Shout out to August with this new track called Entanglement. So, as you all know, Will and Jada had their table talk, and Jada told Will she got into an entanglement, which is a brand new term. You guys out there or girls out there, girls out there, when you decide to cheat on your husband, use entanglement, not cheat. So you watched it. She lets Will Smith know what happened. He's crying and, really acting soft about the whole situation. And so then later in the week or earlier this week, August drops his track Entanglement. Great listening. I haven't actually heard it, but my wife was reading the lyrics to me, which I find extremely funny. But yeah, that's just some little entertainment news for you. Also, a little entertainment news. Let's go with Kanye West and his run for the presidency. Had a nervous breakdown or mental breakdown or whatever kind of breakdown you want to call it the other night in South Carolina, I believe. Talked about Harriet Tubman. Was crying about how he almost killed his daughter. I didn't watch all that. I try my best not to give too much attention. I think he's doing it all just for attention. So I do my best not to pour into Mr. Kanye West. Brilliant musician, though, by the way. But then, we have what's going on with most states. A lot of them are now having to shut down again. California's not allowing dine in anymore. They're closing barbershops and closing gyms. Luckily, the gym that I use here in Texas is still open. But then we have school. We're a little bit less than a month away from for most people actually going back to campus. So this is going to be a real interesting year on what middle school, elementary school, high school, and colleges actually look like. I mean, it's a new level of stress for teachers, parents, and students. For me, I work in education. It's my first graduating class that I will have. So hopefully we get to a space where we can actually, or a place, I should say, where we can see them, but we have to do everything, to stay safe. And then that's the school side of this whole thing. But then you have the sports side. When do sports start? Are sports going to be delayed? Or are we going to cancel them altogether? UIL here in Texas has already pushed back high school football to start 5A and 6A won't start till end of September this year. So it's like moving it back 4 weeks. So that probably will push back all sports, So it's going to be it's just going to be a unique year in the academic realm all the way around, which is, just so different than what we've had in years past. We've gotten so used to the schedule of when school starts, when sports starts, when all these things start. And this is just 2020 just throwing us for a loop. Then we dive into, some sports news. Major League Baseball will be starting this Thursday with the Yankees playing against the defending champion Washington Nationals. I'm excited about baseball season actually this year. I think it's because instead of having the full 162 games, which tends to get very long and day in and day out, I tend to not pay attention until the pennant race, which is September 1st, right then. But this year with only 60 games, I'll be tuning in a lot earlier. just to see how all these teams do. Because instead of getting off to a slow start, I mean, everybody's got to. If you plan on being in the postseason, you got to get going right away. Dr. Fauci will be throwing out the first pitch at that game. If any of you all pay attention to baseball, you'll notice that the San Francisco Giants manager, Gabe Kapler, actually took a knee during the national anthem when they played the Oakland A's. So now we're seeing it across baseball, other people following the Kaepernick routine and taking a knee during the national anthem. The NFL training camp is supposed to begin the end of this week, but there's still players and owners are still discussing safety measures, which is something they're going to have to negotiate. I know they agreed to test every player for the first 2 weeks of camp. And that's a lot of tests. I mean, you have places in the United States that say they can't get enough tests yet. An NFL league I haven't done the math, but there's 80 players per team, 80 times, 32 NFL teams? I mean, this is crazy. For 2 weeks straight, that number's just astronomical that they're willing to do that. I just read on my phone here a second ago that preseason games will be canceled, which is good. It only puts money in the owner's pocket. That's why they actually still want them, the games. But it's a waste of time this year. More guys can get sick during that time. And it's just for what? Let's get the season going. Dan Snyder, he's changing the name of the Washington team. It's great. The NFL, y'all, was going to allow helmet decals of the victims to honor the victims of police violence and systemic racism. Great step in the right direction for the NFL. They're trying. I think Roger Goodell is trying to make some strides to do things a different way. As you all know, more and more colleges and universities are postponing sports or moving to only conference games. To be honest, the pandemic has really just changed and shifted how we operate week by week, day by day. Another news, though, Kevin Durant is interested in buying the Timberwolves. You all know Glenn Taylor is the owner of the Wolves. Now, what's crazy is he's going to probably, I'm guessing he's going to at least get, $1 billion minimum, 900 million. Something crazy if he does decide to sell. Imagine that investment, though. In 1995, he bought the team for $88 million. Even if he just gets $800 million, whew. Oh man, I wish I could have been in his family or something. I might have been cashing in myself. They may move the draft lottery from August 25th to August the 20th. Tracy McGrady and Jermaine O'Neal are starting their own player rep agency. Really cool to see players getting involved in the business side of sports, especially two guys that did it straight from high school, know the ups and downs of the NBA, know what it's like to make a large amount of money and possibly squander some of it. So great to use their knowledge to help out the next generation of players. Now, news from the bubble that doesn't pertain to the top 10 duos. All right, number one, let's go, guys. Let's stop complaining. You're in the NBA. You're staying on a resort. You're in a space that's keeping you relatively very protected as far as the bubble is concerned. So stop complaining about your room, the food, and all that type of stuff. Come on. It's sad because some of the guys that are even complaining are 3 or 4 or 5 years away from, living in a small house, inner city house somewhere in America. And so they've gotten so, let's say, just lost, that they don't realize how blessed they actually have it. You're getting paid millions to play basketball, entertain some people. You're staying on a resort. You can golf all day. You can fish. You can just chill. Like, you got Americans out here really having to go to work and dealing with the virus head on while supporting their families, and there's no room for us to complain. So I think the NBA, you guys need to do a better job of you could be frustrated with the situation, but let's not act like what you're doing is actually extremely hard. Now, there's no new positive test as of this recording for the coronavirus. Westbrook did test positive, so he's going to be showing up in the next couple of days. He might be there now, um, but no new test. Now, I want to see how long that lasts. They've only been there a few weeks. I'm just it's a joke, but I'm just waiting to see, the first positive test based on the fact that one of these players tries to sneak somebody in that's not supposed to be in. Have y'all seen the court? I just got to see it today on Bleacher Report. It looks great. They have black glass painted on the floor above the NBA logo. I think it's really cool what they did with the surrounding court, so you don't see what is it, chairs and bleachers all the way up. It kind of looks more like a stage for like a Broadway play, whereas the main thing that you focus on is the court. They've gotten rid of everything on the around it, so it makes it more like an intimate feel for the game. So I think it'd be cool. The court's going to feel smaller for us watching TV, and at the end, even for the players. And there's going to be some type of adjustment. I think some guys are going to thrive in this environment because they automatically play extremely hard. I think there's going to be some guys going to struggle to be motivated to play in the environment because they feed off the crowd more. But all this is going to be very, very, very interesting to see. The Jumpman logo is going to be appearing on all NBA statement uniforms beginning next year. I see you, Michael Jordan. Taking control. That's very cool, though. So that's all really my news that I have for today. Nothing major else going on in sports. MLS is playing. There's a golf tournament this past weekend. Tiger made the cut but didn't finish strong. John Rahm ended up winning that tournament. But NASCAR is moving along. The world's moving, y'all. But the great thing is this week the NBA starts their scrimmage games, and then it's go time for this restart. So without me talking about more than of that, let's get into my top 10 duos. Now I'm gonna start with my honorable mention list. These are 1, 2, 3 teams that have of course their duo, but they didn't make my top 10. You got Jimmy Butler and Bam out in Miami. A hard one to omit was the Joker and Jamal Murray out of Denver. And then another hard to omit was Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Now, Joker was, he's a top 3 or 4 big guy in the game. But I think in the rest of the teams that the duos I put ahead of them, it had to do with Jamal Murray's game. He hasn't progressed as fast as the duos I have ahead of them. Then you have Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert's a beast defensively, but doesn't bring anything on the offensive end. And I don't know how they're going to mesh. I know both, Mitchell still hasn't gotten over Gobert giving him a coronavirus. So, you don't know how they're going to actually play together. It'd be an interesting offseason for the Jazz. Let's get into it. Number 10, I've got the Pelicans with Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. I know. Before everybody says anything to me about this, Zion's only played 19 games, but that doesn't matter. He's a force. He's only going to get better. He's already averaged 23 points and 7 rebounds. He's one of the few guys in the NBA that can get those type of numbers and not have a bunch of sets and plays ran for him. Then you got Brandon Ingram, who has turned into an all-star in his 4th year in the NBA, living up to that hype of being the second pick in the draft. What is he averaging this year? 25, 7, and 6. My only concern, though, really for these two guys is too often I think the Pelicans try to feature Zion and let him go ISO 1-on-1, when in reality that guy should be Ingram and let Zion play off of him. And then I can't lie. The starting 5 for the Pelicans is really the whole unit is pretty good. I could have substituted Drew Holiday for either one of these guys and still possibly made this top 10 list. So I think that's why the Pelicans get number 10. Looking for big things for them in the playoffs if they get in with Justice Winslow. getting hurt today actually in practice. That opens up that door for them to make that run. But it'd be very interesting to see how they play in their first, if they get into their first playoff matchup. Number 9, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid of the Sixers. You might be asking me, they should be ranked higher. I mean, we're talking about two top 3 picks in their drafts. They're both all-stars. But the reason why they're number 9 is they can't play together. They really, really struggle with spacing when they're both on the floor, especially when Ben Simmons has the ball in his hands playing point. Now, I do see that the Sixers have moved Simmons over to power forward during this restart. So we'll see what they look like without Simmons handling the ball so much and playing point. Now, let's go individually. Simmons' stats haven't really gotten any better since his first year in the NBA that he actually played. Doesn't shoot the ball from the outside. He's so reluctant to do so that once the playoffs start, teams just sag off and play 4 and 5. And Embiid is a big guy, best 2 in the East. I don't think he's ever been in shape. And then the catch with them is just that with lack of spacing, he gets double teamed quite often and things don't work so well, or he's just shooting too many threes when he has Simmons on the floor with him. So that's why they're ranked number 9. Number 8, we go with Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker. All right, start with Jason. Clearly a top 4 guy in the East. His numbers, 24, 7, and 3, making him a first-time All-Star. They're just sensational stats. But in February, he really just took off. He averaged 30 for the month on 48 shooting from 3, which is he's only the 4th player in NBA history actually to do that. The other 3 are Hall of Famers, top 10s. Well, Curry's not there yet, but it's Jordan, Bird, and Steph. So he was on a true tear. I remember watching the game when he played against the Clippers. He was just and the Lakers like the 2 days the night before. He's just going to work. Step backs. Everything's in his bag. The handles were there. He's going to be a great, great, great player for years to come. And then you have Kemba. He was an all-star this year, averaged 21 a game. Interesting thing about the Celtics, they have 4 guys that create their own shot, but Kemba has the ball in his hands a lot. I think this is going to be a huge moment for him individually. As his days in Charlotte, they were never, if they made the playoffs, they're out early anyway. This is an opportunity for him to, create some magic, for his, basketball legacy. How well Boston does with him will be determined a lot with Kemba Walker. Number 7, I have Luka and Kristaps Porzingis. First playoff run for both these guys. But on the year, if we're just rounding up numbers instead of giving you 28.7, 9.6, Luka's averaging 29, 9, and 9. Year 2 in the NBA. Killing it. It's a skill that separates him. He's not the most athletic guy. I said that a couple weeks ago. Now, for him, imagine the monster he's going to be once he loses that baby fat. Gets a little bit leaner, tad bit more explosive. Can shoot the ball a little bit better. He's only shooting 31% from 3. But it doesn't matter. He opens up everything for everybody on the team. How much better is he going to get in a few years? And then you have Kristaps, who's having a great year, especially when you consider he didn't play at all last year. 19 and 9. He's finally getting his legs back. He's finally getting some chemistry with Luka. Very, very, the future's promising for the Mavs big time. Number 6, got Dame and CJ McCollum. They both could get going offensively. Both tremendous. McCollum is probably skill-wise just phenomenal because he doesn't have elite athleticism. He's only 6'4", so he has to use craftiness and just pure skill to get his buckets. Dame is just, he's averaging 29 a game, having a monster year. The team is underachieved this year, but not those two guys. I mean, they're getting it done night in, night out. Interesting take even by Charles Barkley, who said that if Portland gets in the playoffs, he's predicting that they beat the Lakers in the first round. I'm not going to go that far and say that they're going to win, but I think the series could go 6 games. Dame can win a game by himself. He's that kind of point guard. Now, let me ask you guys this question. I'd love for you to make a comment on this. If you took Dame and put him on the Warriors, do the Warriors have more titles, the same amount of titles, or less titles? And if you put Curry with the Blazers, are they a playoff team? Are they going to the Western Conference Finals? Same scenario. Be interesting to see. I'm just really, really, Dame's game is just top 2 or 3 point guard in the world. But if they don't make the playoffs or flame out really quick, it'd be interesting to see what they do with that group next year. All right. Moving right along, number 5. We got Giannis and Kris Middleton. They should be ranked higher because Giannis is at worst is a top 3 player in the world. The problem is Kris Middleton actually admitted that he didn't touch a basketball for 4 months. Giannis is having an all-time great individual season, 30, 14, and 6. I mean, what else can you ask? He's doing this in only 30 minutes a game. Even Middleton is averaging 21. He's shooting 50, 40, and 90. One of the few players in NBA history actually to get that accomplished. If he's right there on that average. But to admit that you didn't touch a basketball for 4 months, it's crazy. There's no way an NBA player shouldn't touch a basketball. Especially when you know that the season's going to come back. That's my thing. Off season, that's fine. Take a couple weeks off, take a month off. Yeah, do whatever you want to do. But they never said the season was canceled. So he didn't touch it. And then my problem with him by doing it was he flamed out so bad last year, the playoffs. So you got your max contract. You don't touch then you don't touch a basketball for 4 months. But you're coming off a previous year playoff run where you underperformed. That's not a sign for you all wanting to win a championship. So, if he flames out again, I'm talking about Kris is what I'm talking about. Be very, very interesting to see what Giannis wants to do next year, because they've locked him in to max money, and if it's 2 years in a row where when the pressure gets tightest, his butt gets so tight he can't perform, it's gonna be bad for the whole Milwaukee franchise. Number 4, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam. Lowry's a pro's pro. He just gets it done night in, night out, year in, year out. Got to keep in mind, he had 26 and 10 in that closeout game versus the Warriors. He's having a great year this year. Now, like Middleton, Siakam admitted not to touching the basketball for a few months. I'm not going to hold it against him as much so as I did with Middleton, because last year he performed in the playoffs. And this year became the number 1 option. He's had a great year. So, I mean, think about it. In 3 years, he went from a role player to a bona fide star. So that's why they're ranked ahead of Giannis at number 4. Number 3, we've got James Harden and Russell Westbrook. Say what you want about how they play. They both get it done. James Harden is on fire to start the year. And they traded Capella, and Westbrook started to dominate while Harden went into a slump. I mean, they both have scoring championships and MVPs on their resumes. Once they traded Capella, it just opened it up for Westbrook to have his driving lanes and kick out for the threes, and allowed Harden to just play his ISO ball. They're going to be tough to beat. Really, really tough to beat. Now, we both know both of them had the coronavirus, so let's see how they perform in the next couple of weeks, if there are any lingering effects of catching that virus. Now, a lot of people knock James Harden for his playoffs. And yes, he was at the strip club too much when he's in the finals where he's playing for Oklahoma City. Everybody knows that. He had a bad series against the Spurs. But other than that, I mean, he's played pretty good basketball in all of his playoff series since then. Westbrook, he plays harder than anybody in the NBA. I think he's going to be one that performs well even with no crowd because that's just his personality, how he plays. I don't know how far they're going to go as a team, but they're going to put up some huge numbers. Very interesting to see. They're such a different type of team um, than anybody else in the NBA. And then this duo is so different that both of them can fill it up with the ball in their hands. You don't need to get them the ball. They're both ISO guys that can create. So that's why I have them at number 3. They're just not better than my top 2. All of you all should be able to guess who my remaining 2 duos are. Number 2, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I mean, you got the reigning Finals MVP. And then you have Paul George, who's a top 5 MVP candidate last year. I mean, right now, you could say Kawhi is the guys that are playing now, top 3. You know, PG, I think he needs to step up, play well in these playoffs, but they're right there. Both of them create on their own. Both of them are 20-point a game, give you 40 in a given night if needed. So I think they're going to bring that. They're the second best duo just for the fact that they bring it on both sides. I mean, they're both elite defensively. So we'll see how they do in this playoff run. But both Clippers, I mean, they're loaded with Kawhi and Paul George. You could get going with either one of them. Paul is one of the few players in the NBA that can play so great within the flow of you not having to continuously call sets for him to get the ball in his spots. Virtually the NBA floor is his spot. I mean, he shoots great from the perimeter. He's 6'8", long, get a shot over guys. And then Kawhi, his mid-post game is just, I mean, since Kobe, we haven't seen it. You know, his ability to elevate. Well, KD has it too. I apologize, KD. But his ability to elevate, shoot over the top of guys, and just dominate from that 15, 18-foot range. What analytics call the worst shot in the game, but gets it done from right there. They're my top 2. And then number 1, LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I'm going to start with AD because I really want to see what he does in the playoffs. With the Pelicans, his record was 235 and 295. So I don't understand how a consensus top 5 player in the NBA has a losing career record. I don't hear about the roster. This is the NBA's only 5 guys on the floor. If you're that great, you should be able to carry your team to a better record than that. You know, take guys like Dirk, who for year in, year out in Dallas, they were winning 50 games. He didn't have great all-stars playing next to him year in and year out. He just found a way to win. Davis puts up great numbers, but I just, I don't know. I think he's missing something. So I do want to see him perform in the playoffs. I think LeBron's going to put him in positions to succeed. But to me, there's just something missing from AD. I think when the games get tighter, I just don't think he elevates his game. And yes, it's years ago. I mean, he won a college championship, but if y'all remember that game, he was 1 for 10 from the field. So it's going to be with AD. I mean, yes, he's a top duo mainly because he's playing with LeBron, and he's a great player himself. I'm not going to take anything away from him, but I just want to see him perform at the height of the playoffs. And now let's go with LeBron. I mean, year 17, the way he's playing is remarkable. He should be the MVP. I'll get into that next week when I give my who should be MVP and Sixth Man of the Year and Coach of the Year and all that type of stuff. But I mean, I can go. You can talk for hours about how great LeBron is. What he's doing in year 17 is just a testament to his hard work and dedication to his craft. Leading the NBA in assists. Keeps his body ready to go. He performs 9 in and 9 out. I mean, you really, outside the Mavs meltdown 9 years ago, when has he had a bad actual playoff series? So that's why they are my best duo in the NBA, mainly because of LeBron's IQ and the fact that he's going to make sure that they're in the right spots to win. And then both he and AD, well, mainly AD, that plays a high level amount of defense. They had a slight edge over Kawhi and Paul George. Well, there you go. That's my top 10 duos in the NBA bubble heading into this restart. Let me know what you think. If you agree or disagree, shoot me a comment. Send me a message on Instagram. Doesn't matter. I'd love to have your take on my rankings. Until next week, stay safe, be blessed. I'm out.